Welcome to Cohesive Friendship Unit. My name is Chris. I'm here with Jeremy,
Yo, what's up?
Jake,
Hey guys.
and Brian.
What's going on?
Artifacts, Risk of Rain 2, it's out. No new character this time, but there were a few game tweaks, and we have played the game for 200 plus hours-ish each. So, figured might as well make a tier list, an Artifact tier list, heading up on the, right before the 1.0 launch. So, this is our Artifact tier list. This is all-encompassing. This is like for solo players, duos, and squads, so it's not specific to any single one, which is it. And we're going to be talking about this once we open it up. This is also our first group tier list, so that's just something to keep in mind. Like, this is an all-encompassing tier list. And before we get into it, if you love us, sub us. We'd really appreciate a sub from you guys. We'll be doing giveaways in the nearish future as we kind of figure stuff out. There's a new YouTube studio, so it's hard for me to see subscribers. I'm still figuring out the details, but definitely consider subscribing. And if you found this helpful, throw us a like. So, let's start at low tier, and let's just work our way to the top. How we're going to do it this time is I'm just going to say the tier, and then all the characters in the tier, and then just open it up to discussion, because in a group setting, I think that's the best way to do it. So for low tier, we have Commando and Artificer. So yeah, that's who we picked there.
Yeah, and I would say, we were talking about this before we started. We were having a tough time placing Artificer versus Multi. Multi we ended up putting in mid-tier, but I think they're very, very close. Commando, I think everyone can easily agree that he's just the basic character. Not much going there, so he definitely belongs in there. Artificer, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about Multi at the same time, but they're both pretty slow. Their damage is good. I think Artificer has better damage, but Multi's definitely an easier character to get into. But both of them don't have a lot going on right now in the current, I guess you could call it, meta of Risk and Rain. They're not fast enough to stay alive late game. Their control's pretty good, but they don't have a ton going for them.
Yeah, my biggest problem with Artificer in particular, I was an advocate for Artificer in low tiers because the movement speed is just really bad, in my opinion. You can't take advantage of attack speed items like Soldier Syringe, and even things like Leeching Seed, which I think is a really essential item, are harder to take advantage of just because of the way that your attacks come out. Like, you don't have a guaranteed attack rate. And Jeremy, you play Commando a lot.
I've been known to dabble.
He's fat. Like, he has good
He's
movement.
fun to play. Yeah. He is pretty fast, which I tend to prefer faster characters. But I think the big picture on Commando is just that they're like, we talked a lot when we were making the list about skill ceiling. With Commando, there's virtually no skill ceiling. There's nothing, unique to the character that you kind of can learn to take advantage of in a way that would make you more competitive. His damage output isn't great. The stun move is pretty good. The roll is pretty good. But there's just no real way to kind of work with the items in the game to get him to the next level, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at each character as like they do one thing explicitly good, I think Multi does everything Commando does just a little bit better. Like, he's got a stun that's just better. His attack speed and he's all attack speed, basic attack damage oriented. His attacks come out faster and they do more damage.
I mean, his shift does damage at all.
Right, and if you switch that with the Grasshopper leg, or I think it's called Shadow Strides.
Shades of Heresy. Strides of Heresy.
No, Strides of Heresy, yeah. They both Commando and Multi get better, but again, they're still, I think Multi just does everything a little bit better than Commando. And he's tankier.
Well, Brian has a lot of Multi experience, so let's shift up into mid-tier. Mid-tier, we have this. I think this one we'll have a lot to talk about. Multi and Engineer. Actually, I think we all have a lot to talk about for mid-tier. Brian, you played a lot of Multi.
I played a lot of Multi past tense.
Damn.
Multi, he's just not really that much fun. you know, your attacks are all right, but he's really slow and like, you know, he's not horrendous, but like there are way better options out there. I really like Acrid personally. I won't get into that at the moment, but like kind of a similar place that like he's almost been superseded.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Multi used to be much better, and I think Artificer used to be a good. Artificer's always had problems, but she used to be a good bit better. And you know, maybe it's time for them being the devs to look at giving them some sort of buff or whatever to rebalance things, or maybe they want to keep it the way it is. But they've kind of sunken in the ratings over time.
I will say for Multi, the two equipments are really solid, especially although equipments seem to have been losing value as they've been kind of diluted a bit with like lesser equipments. It is still...
You don't like the vase?
I love the vase, dude. I think it is kind of nice to have two equipments. Like you can get some great synergies. Like you can get the cube with the ocular HUD, something like that. That's pretty cool, especially for solo.
Like I think, like Jake said, Multi's just kind of like the command. Like he's omni range. You could shoot the rebar puncher across the map, so like you can shoot down wisps and stuff from like wherever you want, and you can do close up with the little nail gun thing. But like, it's just really not that special.
Yeah, and I think Multi edges out both Commando and Artificer for mid-tier because he's a lot easier to play than Artificer. It's a lot easier to get his damage online. Like you can build almost anything, and he will consistently do the same amount of damage, and he can benefit from healing items. His skill ceiling is not high at all. He's very easy to get into. He's very tanky, very survivable. He may be kind of boring, but he's there. But his downfall is the movement speed. He's just so slow, and I think the meta right now is all movement speed, all iframes, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, speaking of lackluster movement speed, Engineer. My personal issue with Engineer is in solo play, I think Engineer struggles. I think if this was a multiplayer tier list, Engineer would be a lot higher. Even though I'm not that crazy. So I am a personal fan of the walking turrets over the stationaries, which we can get into. So you in that one hand, you do lose the bustling fungus. On the other hand, you still do have that shield, but I think the shield, it does not hold up in higher difficulties. Like, I think it's almost unusable in higher difficulties, with the exception of the jellyfish, and his right click is trash. So that's all I have to say.
His right click's not bad. You just have to do it ahead of time. Like, you gotta set them out. And once they get the green circle, it's way more damage.
Remember when you used to have 10 of them?
If you get the walking turret, the walking mines, they're also much better.
Well, but here's the other problem. His right click is arguably trash. His left click is arguably trash. Like, his primary attack is not good. And it's extremely difficult to hit enemies in the air. They're slow. They don't do that much damage.
That is, Brian always talks about wrestling with the AI when I use the walking turrets, but in general, right, Engineer does put out a decent amount of damage, but the problem is you have no control over where that damage goes, because even with the stationary
you don't
turrets,
use the fucking walking turrets. You can put the stationary turrets down wherever you
they'll
want.
still shoot whatever they want.
On stupid-ass little enemies instead of the main boss sometimes.
So yeah.
Sometimes, but they're way more likely to focus on the right things than the walking turrets, which walk off of fucking cliffs, and they just wander off by themselves. They're useless. I hate them.
Engineer is kind of tough to rank because I could definitely say he would be top tier damage in a multiplayer setting, but in solo, like, any boss is just gonna shit on your stationary turrets by round 5. And honestly, the walking turrets are not going to survive much longer in the later rounds as well. This damage is just so inconsistent without more people distracting the enemies.
I would say that I know this is getting way ahead, but Chris you have an item that you like to use with Rex to get around like one of his stupidities. Like if you get, I don't know what the name of it is.
Strides of Heresy.
Yes. Yeah. The Visions of Heresy, I think, the one we got the other night.
Yeah, it replaces your
That replaces your left click. If you get that with the Engineer, that's a really viable skill, I think, that expands him quite a bit more.
Yeah, I'm still out on whether or not that does a lot of damage. I have to play with it more. But I would agree, that's really your only option for replacing your left click.
But it replaces your turrets too, so there may be a trade-off.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think are we good on mid tier?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. So high tier. This is a knock for me, especially because I've been praising the Huntress. I've put her. She's been top tier before, and I think we there's been mutual agreement on that to some extent. And now we have Huntress at high tier along with Mercenary.
Yeah, I think Huntress is not top tier. I think we rated her top tier last time, right?
Possibly. Probably.
I think we did. She kind of falls into the high tier now because, as you'll see, everyone that's in top tier kind of has some sort of either survivability or just stupid amounts of damage. But she has got great damage, great AoE damage, and she's super mobile. So she definitely belongs up there. But she's hard to play.
Well, she's hard to play, and she has a critical weakness that is her health. Like, she just cannot take a lot of damage like some of these other characters can. And that, like, I mean, it if you get hit once, you're pretty much kicked. Like, I know that there's one-shot protection, but, you know, realistically, you get hit once, you're down to, like, 20 health, and then you're done.
Yeah, and then there's 8 more guys after you, and that's it.
Yeah, but, like, like you said, Jake, she has really good crowd control and really good damage output. But I think you do rely on things like Tougher Times and Topaz Brooches and Leeching Seeds to get her to a point where she's comfortable, and that's not guaranteed.
Yeah, and I don't think her ultimate skills really add anything to her. Right out of the box, she's very good.
I play default.
Yeah, I do too. The other skills are fun, but they're not as good. But my personal favorite character, Mercenary, is in high tier. And it pains me to put him there, but compared to the guys in top tier, he just does not do the damage, but his iframes make him so survivable, so mobile. He's just a ton of fun to play, and he can put out a ton of damage, but his skill ceiling is probably the highest in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to like get the timing down on all of his attacks and everything, and figuring out when you can drop abilities and when you have to save them.
I mean,
only elite gamers can truly play Mercenary.
I always joke on my like sobriety tier list of playable characters. Mercenary, I have to be like completely sober to play. Like I would say hardest character to play. Around there with Artificer, like very difficult to take, because I would say Mercenary is high tier, but if you're not good at Mercenary, it's like low tier, almost bottom tier. Like if you don't know how to use those iframes and save those iframes for the critical moments when there will be a killing blow, you're dust. Cool. So top tier, shall we?
Top tier.
Yeah.
Top tier. Well, we'll talk about this at the very end, kind of like the outstanding meta. But top tier, I mean, you guys know what characters are left. We have Acrid, we have Rex, and we have Loader. So we have a plant, a dog, dinosaur, lizard, and a girl in a suit. The alien suit.
Oh yeah, I forgot she was a girl.
Yeah, Loader is she's got the auto attack like overshield that she gets, which is just so strong. It's unbelievable.
Well, we were talking before this started. We agreed that Loader has a very low skill ceiling, like very easy to get into because of that, things like that overshield and the shift that lets you just like plow through things, but also a very high skill ceiling in that to really master using the grappling, it does take some time.
I think that's what puts Loader in the top tier versus Mercenary. Mercenary probably has the highest, as we said, skill ceiling, but a fairly high skill floor. Loader has a very high skill ceiling, maybe not quite as high as Mercenary, but also a very low skill floor. Anyone can pick it up, and after 1 or 2 rounds, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and like with Mercenary, you're not going to get top damage if you just pick them up. Like it takes a lot of work to be able to get any damage out of them. Whereas Loader, you can pick her up and she's doing at least close to top tier damage because she's super easy to pick up. But once you figure out how to get the speed up and go flying across the map and punch through an enemy, like that's when you really unlock Loader.
Yeah, and where Mercenary has the iframes but kind of mediocre health, and Acrid doesn't have any health protection at all, but still is a tanky character, Loader has that overshield, which makes Loader, I think, really approachable as as a melee character. Like if you're getting into the melee characters, has a lot of health and gets an overshield just for attacking.
Yep.
Yeah. Acrid, on the other hand, is the only other main character left. Is just unbelievable damage. Probably the highest damage out there, just from you drop some poison and everyone dies. It's crazy.
Brian's an Acrid main.
I like Acrid.
You dabble.
Well, no, I don't. I play Bane, like you said, but he's got the really high health. I shouldn't say it is an interdimensional alien lizard of some sort. So who am I?
We don't know what gender identities are on his planet.
Exactly. Thank you. But you know, huge HP pool to the point where like you can really seriously think about using multiple Hellfire tinctures. The damage output with the base skill, the poison is pretty good, with the downside that you can't kill anyone directly with the poison attacks. So like if you poison them, they can't die from the poison, which you can get around pretty easy. But his new skill, instead of one is based off of the enemy's max HP, the other one's based off of the Blight, which is the new skill, is based up. It's like 60% of whatever your damage rating is, and it stacks. So if you have a backup mag, you can hit people multiple times with an attack, and they'll end up with like 6 or 7 in a chain, and that really adds up over time. And you still have the ability to do the poison jump and just like poison a whole ton of people, and on top of all that, it kills people. So like you can get someone with a poison attack and it'll get them. Like you won't have a whole bunch of enemies running around on low HP. So I mean he's really OP. He's not like, if you want to talk about skill ceilings, it's not that high. Like if you want to get a good buzz on and still do like 2.6, 2.7 million damage, like Acrid's the guy for you. But like if you want to be challenged, I don't know that he's necessarily the right.
Well, and we were doing a run a few days ago, and I was trying Acrid, and I was like dying. I was by no means gonna get the highest points in the game. I was definitely being carried to an extent, but I somehow miraculously had the most damage. It's just like,
that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah, when he was released, I think he was uber OP, and then they added in Deathmark with this most recent patch, and now he's just even more powerful because Deathmark is like the perfect item for him. So
yeah,
you get a couple items between you and your buds, and like that's it. It's all over.
Yeah.
Acrid has essentially no skill floor, as we've basically said. Like I similarly to Chris, I picked him up for the first time and had ridiculous damage, and I'm not a melee player at all.
Yeah. The hard part for him, I think, the only hard part is if you're playing solo, he's not survivable as a melee character. You have to be very careful with him because he doesn't have any overshield, doesn't have any high frames, does not have a good escape. So he could definitely be tough.
Yeah, you have to be careful.
You gotta be conservative with your shift to escape. Yeah.
But you can just like drop your poison and walk away and let people die. So he can do it. He's just not as survivable.
Well, so then there's Rex, which I've been playing Rex a lot in and around artifacts, and I've been like starting to like Rex a lot. I think Rex is a very good damage dealer, a very good crowd controller, and a very unique character where you're focusing on health as like the primary gimmick of the character, like managing health, is the only character with healing out of the box. So it's the only character that you're actually guaranteed to get healing. I guess Loader kind of has that with the overshield, but not really. But yeah, there's no real definitive weakness to Rex, except that Rex does damage to themselves, but almost all the attacks do healing back to them. So there is a weakness. There's an investment, but the investment pays off with Rex, and I find that you can almost always come up with a good build for Rex.
I think Rex can put out the most damage in the game with his entangling roots and his seed mortar. Like, that's just the most OP combo there is. And
I think theoretically, yeah.
Yeah, and you could just drop those out pretty much constantly. Like, if you, God forbid, you get like a black hole or cube, you can just suck all the enemies together and destroy everyone instantly. Like, he's so good right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's a whole lot to say about Rex.
I would say the only slight knock on Rex, and it's not major at all, Rex is still quadruple S tier, is that he's not a difficult character to learn, but you do have to learn how to play it. You know,
you can't just pick him up.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not as challenging as Mercenary, I would argue, but he's more challenging than the other two top tier characters, and I would argue probably more challenging than Huntress, just because he does fundamentally rely on a couple unique mechanics.
Yeah.
He is kind of a sober character as well. You got to pay attention a little bit.
Agree to disagree. No.
He also finally answers the question, what if Pichu from Super Smash Bros. Melee was good?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess to wrap it up, I just want to talk about maybe some trends and thoughts in general. I'll just say it is interesting that all the Melee characters are higher top tier, so they're in like the top half of the roster, and two of the three Melee characters are top tier, which is just an observation that I kind of thought would be interesting. The other thing is a lot of our top tier characters are good crowd controllers. I mean, Loader is, I would say, a good crowd controller in that shift can just plow through enemies if you line them up right. The R is solid. Rex can entangle enemies, do a ton of damage. Acrid can poison. Huntress can use the disc and the raining arrows. So I think crowd control really is dominating right now. And movement speed, even though some characters don't have the best movement speed that made it higher into the list, like Rex. Those are just my thoughts. I don't know.
Yeah, they all have good AoE damage, all of those top tier characters. But I think movement speed has been prioritized a lot with the subsequent updates, as well as some form of, call it survivability, be it iframes from Mercenary, overshields from Loader, built-in healing with Rex. Like, they all have some survivability mechanic. So that I think there's a little too much dependence on movement speed right now. A lot of the less mobile characters are very quickly falling behind, like Multi, like Artificer, like Commando.
I mean, I think it's kind of a result of the game, of what the game is, right? Because higher levels, you're going to be facing a shit ton of enemies all at once, so you're going to have to be able to deal with that, and our top tier kind of reflects that. And to the movement speed, it helps you on lower levels when things are cheap to run around and buy as much stuff as you can, get as many items as you can early on, because the earlier you get them, the more valuable they are. So, movement speed is kind of a problem with Acrid and Rex, but there's items to get around it fairly easily. There's 3 or 4 different items that you could get that would effectively solve the problem.
Jay, any meta thoughts?
One kind of meta trend that I'm surprised we haven't remarked on yet is that all of our top tier characters are post-release. As the characters have been rolling out, it seems like they've been getting progressively better. I don't know if that was intentional or if it's maybe a recency bias on our end. I don't know. I have one kind of question. I don't know if this would be too deep to get into, and it's about a couple characters that I don't tend to play. But if you were going to rebalance the characters, let's, work from the assumption that we're not just going to make our top tier characters shitty. If you were going to take like Artificer and Multi, how would you improve them to maybe make them a little more competitive? I'm putting aside Commando because he's kind of, he's the Mario. He's not really intended to be good. He's intended to be accessible. But Artificer and Multi both have, their designs to work on certain mechanics. How could you maybe build upon the way that they're structured already, but make them a little more playable? Like with Artificer, I'm wondering if maybe it's just a matter of having even higher damage output. I don't know.
I would personally double Artificer's speed, and if that's like if that's not too much, make the left click not have a cooldown, but make it weaker. So make that you can have a constant stream left click, but it's weaker, and double the speed of Artificer. I think that would make Artificer a much better character.
Yeah, I think Artificer could use some sort of dash. It could just be a straight dash like what Huntress has, or I think something even better would be like Strides of Heresy, a little nerf for Artificer, some way to kind of slowly move without taking damage. Just some form of escape that would let her do better. Multi, I think he's good. I think he could just use a little more speed. He's just very, very slow, which makes him hard to get through the early game.
But that's part of my thinking, is it seems like the main disadvantage we've kind of acknowledged with our low tier characters is that they are slow. And I'm wondering if there's a way that you could rebalance it that would preserve them as slower characters, because I'm not, trying to avoid homogenizing the characters and just kind of making them all faster and high damage. Like, is there a way that you could make those slower characters more successful while still preserving the fact that they're intended to play differently than our relatively high speed upper tiers?
I think you could also make a strong case for buffing Maltese rail gun, like making it stronger, because it's really only good for killing imps. Or
a little bit higher rate of fire would be nice with that too.
Higher rate of fire, more damage. That would
be fun.
Help, that would be fun, and it would help balance the speed deficit, because you can shoot across the map.
Like kind of turn Multi into like a legitimate tank, like very high damage and still just quite slow.
What I think something legitimate they could do is turn his shift, like reduce the cooldown a little bit on that, but make it like a tank. So like you don't have to use it all at once. You could use it in small bursts, and then once you drain all that, you have to go through the cooldown.
That's
just
cool.
Because his problem is you have to use the speed all at once. You can't and then you have to wait 15 seconds or whatever until you can use it again. And he doesn't have anything to jump. So making the speed a little bit more useful, I don't think would overpower the character.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, cool. Well, I think this wraps up our artifacts tier list. We will definitely, I think this worked out. I think we'll probably be doing a group tier list for 1.0. But yeah, look forward to our 1.0 review, 1.0 coverage, 1.0 everything. 1.0 is coming soon, boys. But until 1.0, what should our viewers be doing right about now, Brian?
Well, if you have thoughts on where you'd place your people in the tier list, and you probably think that we're all wrong, go ahead and hammer those thoughts down in the word box there. And like Chris said, we will be doing more videos on Risk of Rain. It's kind of a thing. We kind of do a lot of videos in this game. So if you want to be tuned into all the latest cohesive friendship unit Risk of Rain shit, go ahead and click that subscribe button, because, if you watch this far in the video, you probably liked it. And we do occasionally give stuff away on this. We've been known to give away Steam codes. So that's just an added benefit thrown in for you. And smoke them if you got them, guys. That's all from me tonight, Chris.
All right, thank you, Brian. Catch you guys next time.